Good evening, race fans, and welcome back to Season 2 of the Ottercar AI Racing Series Championship. Tonight, here at Sebring International Raceway to crown a champion of Season number 2. It's kind of hard to believe it that all 12 of these long weeks are almost completely in the books here, and then, well, it's on to start Brainstorm in Season number 3. Of course, going to be taking at least a month or two off before we start kicking off season number 3. There's a lot of work that needs to be done in the off season. But before we can get ourselves too excited for what's going to be going on in season number 3, we still got to finish off season number 2. Here at Sebring, coming in at 0.374 miles or 6.01 kilometers in length. Opened up back in 1950 where they held their first ever race, I believe, in December of 1950. Not the first time that Ottercar has been to a World War II airbase converted into a racetrack. It's a little bit weird that that's just what half the racetracks nowadays are just abandoned airfields that they turned into racetracks, but fair enough. If it works, it works. This is the oldest permanent road racing circuit in the United States, though. Of course, like I said, was a World War II airbase. Pretty much immediately got turned into a racetrack as soon as they got the opportunity to. This track has hosted F1 before, only a couple of times. Of course, F1 only has been here a few times before Watkins Glen International was built, and then at Watkins Glen, that was an actual proper F1 grade circuit for the time. Then, of course, there was Circuit of the Americas, and now the Miami Autodrome that F1 visits. So F1's all over the place, but who cares? We don't seem to really like F1 here anyway. I mean, we're driving super late models on road courses for Pete's sake. Regardless, they have been here. And of course, SCCA goes here because SCCA goes to basically every road racing track in the United States in some capacity. And of course, IMSA and the World Endurance Championship go here. Of course, this is the track that hosts the 12 Hours of Sebring. That's why there's a giant 12 in the track name. It is Sebring, and it hosts the 12 Hours of Sebring. They've done that every year since, I believe, 1953, I want to say. So this track has a lot of history to it, and today the Ottercar drivers are going to be throwing that all out the window with whatever tomfoolery they get up to here. And if nothing else, I mean, we're going to be declaring a champion, and it might just end up being a pretty dang spicy race. Right now, currently looking down at the 818 of MF Beatus, who is getting ready to complete his first qualifying lap here. We'll have to see how that shakes up for the driver of the 818. For most of the Ottercar season, this driver has been at the very bottom of the scoreboard, but managed to take home a win last week at the Charlotte Oval for the Kills You Corner 75 presented by Speedway Motorsports. So who knows, maybe we will see this driver make a triumphant return, go 2 for 2. But right now, after a move like that, I don't think the chances are particularly good. Looking at the qualifying times right now, Mephitis back in 13th, 4 seconds off the leader's time. Currently a 2-minute and 8-second lap set by none other than Mr. Kevin 11. Dwayne Day running back in second, only about 67th hundredths of a second behind him. Then Ash and Ash both win a second, thirds within a second as well. And these qualifying times, something to definitely be keeping an eye on here, because here with the Ottercar Championship, just like it works with actual NASCAR playoffs in the Championship 4 of the race, points do not matter anymore. The driver who takes home the championship of the 4 highlighted in purple on our timing and scoring screen entirely comes down to whoever has the highest finishing position. That is it. Nothing else matters except who of these 4 drivers gets the best finish here this evening. So that qualifying position, Ash, Thirds, and Madcap all going to be duking it out right next to each other. But unless Chris Cox can get a better second lap off, he might be in for a very, very difficult championship run in that number 69. Let's take a look down here, see how Chris Cox is doing right now. Let's maybe even ride on board with him, see what he is up to down on the track, see what these drivers are seeing as they make their way around this very demanding circuit. Of course, with this track being an abandoned airfield effectively, the roads are not in the greatest of condition. You can see all of the sealant that's out on the track where they very much have just been patching stuff, and then you get onto the hard concrete of the actual runways. And Chris Cox is not going to elect to try and complete a second lap here. So Chris Cox going to be starting all the way back in 17th. Looks like going to be the last of the drivers that were able to successfully set a qualifying time here. We'll give it just a minute because there are a couple of other drivers still on the track. Oh, you know, still making his way around the circuit in the 420 machine. It does not look like he's actually trying to set a qualifying lap, though. I think he's just pacing around the track trying to get back to pit lane. So in that case, it looks like our qualifying is basically in the books here. Yeah, there's no one still out on the circuit that's actually attempting to set a qualifying time. There's a couple of drivers down on pit lane that looked like they might have actually wrecked out of their qualifying attempts, which is a little bit scary to see. But I suppose if that's the case, let's just go ahead and advance through the qualifying session, get things started off here for our Ottercar Season 2 Championship event here for the Grand Clam Championship race. And take a look down at our starting lineup. Starting out on the pole there in the number 7 machine, that's going to be none other than Mr. Kevin 11, followed by the 4 of Dwayne Day, starting to his outside position number 2. Back in third, that's going to be the 030 of Ash, who made his way into the playoffs, so unfortunately not into the Championship 4. Followed by Ash with an E back in fourth. Ash with an E did manage to make his way into the championship, so he is one of the 4 contenders we're going to have to keep an eye on here tonight. And starting for row 3, 2 more of the championship 4 thirds in the 3 machine. Madcap in the 38, one of the Blazing Drunk drivers. He and thirds are both in the championship 4, so they are going to be vying for that title here tonight. Back in 7th, going to be the 2 of Ame Sakramori, one of the hybrid development team drivers that seem to be having a really good run going throughout the season, throughout the playoffs as well, but both it and its teammate of Rowley back in 9th, also for hybrid development team, both of them just had really terrible rounds of 8s, and unfortunately neither of those drivers were able to make it into the championship 4. But back in 8th, going to be the 12 of Pav, then of course the 26 of Rally back in 9th, then back in 10th, going to be the 37 of Queen Amatrine, sponsored by Riot Games, one of the Blazing Drunk drivers. And we're going to go ahead and tell the pace car to get going, because apparently iRacing just feels like ignoring all of our settings today. Back in 11th, though, that's going to be the 1 machine of Med, followed by the 21 of August back in 12th here. 13th going back to the 777 of Sarah Something, followed by the final Blazing Drunk drivers. Remember, that's going to be the 776 of Valnar. Back in 15th, the 901 of Sarkin, not the greatest starting position, but aside from his hometown race at Oran Park earlier in the season, Sark has not been having a very great time here in this season. Back in 16th, though, going to be the 818 of MFetus, the driver we were watching back in qualifying, followed by back in 17th, the final driver to actually post a qualifying time 11 seconds slower than our pole sitter. That's going to be the 69 of Chris Cox, the final member of the Championship 4 here. Back behind them is going to be the 800 of Deeg as the first driver to fail to set a qualifying time, followed by the 985 of Jeremy Albertson back in 20th. 21st going to be going to the 666 entry of Zoe, followed by Lake in the 330 back in 22nd. 23rd going to go back to the 369 of Drop Table Roster, followed by Limited Time in the 44 back in 24th. Back in 25th going to be the 420 of Oh You Know, followed by the 93 of Bloody Wolf. Then it will be Ashley in the 88, rounding out the tail end of our 26 car Ottercar field here this evening. Still got a decent way to go around the speedway before we get things rolling here and take the green flag, because of course iRacing loves being difficult. They were supposed to do a short parade lap that started about probably a quarter of a mile from the start finish line, but instead no, we're going to have to pace the entire track. But at least now you're all warmed up to what the cautions may end up being like here in this race. Of course, coming in at 3.74 miles, not the biggest track we've been to, I don't believe, but it is certainly up there. It does look like, yeah, Road America is the biggest track we've been to, so just a little bit shorter than Road America. And that was one of the races where Thirds took home the checkered flag in that 3 machine. Thirds, the regular season points leader as well. So she's definitely worked her butt off to get into this championship 4, but now it all comes down to who can tackle the incredibly rough and bumpy ride that is getting around Sebring International Raceway. Slowly but surely making our way around the circuit, getting sort of close to the end of the lap. Sure enough, we are on the back straightaway now. This is where the pace lap was supposed to begin, and it just didn't for whatever reason, but you know, what can you do, I suppose? Regardless, here in just a moment, we're going to see the pace car jump down to the safety of pit lane as we head through Sunset Bend and get ready to get this thing rolling for the Ottercar Grand Clam Championship race here at Sebring. Going to be 17 laps the distance here for today's event, which is actually pretty close to what we've had for most of these races. But regardless, it's time to let these folks settle the score. The pace car swerves, Tokyo drifts down onto pit lane, and the green flag is up in the air here at Sebring. Immediately fanning out 3 and 4 wide across the start finish line as we head down into turn number 1. Let's get a top down view of things as everyone starts to make their way around. Pav getting shunted off into the runoff area. Fortunately for him, there's a lot of track out there to work with, and we have trouble as well as Kevin 11, our pole sitter, comes to a stop, and here comes all the blocker cars getting by him. So Kevin 11 first to last, just like that. Further up in the field, though, pretty much all 2x2 all the way around. A bit of beating and banging there going on between the Ottercar drivers. Everyone is getting extra physical here in today's race, it seems like. Everyone knows, even if they're not in the Championship 4 and not competing for the title, this is their last opportunity to put on a show and make a name for themselves and show that they have a questionable level of talent here in these super late model cars before we completely shake things up for Ottercar season number 3. Up the front, Thirds in that 3 machine has taken the race lead. Ash in the 030 just behind, then Ash with an E back in 3rd as one of the playoff drivers. Chris Cox is actually working his way through the field, though. Chris Cox has made his way up to 13th right now. So Chris is not out of the picture here, especially if we end up seeing the caution flag fly or any particularly big incidents, and maybe a little bit of gambling on pit strategy as well. It is definitely entirely possible that Chris Cox could still walk away with this. But still not even a single lap in the book. We've got a long way left to go here. So far, everyone has been pretty well behaved, making their way around the circuit, at least for the time being. Of course, heading down the back straightaway down into Sunset Bend once again. Everyone going really wide through the corner here. But it looks like around the field, generally everyone's making their way through. Oh, maybe not. We have trouble. Sarah Something is around. Sarah Something, Chris Cox involved as well. Chris Cox, one of the playoff drivers, has been spun out. This doesn't look like particularly bad damage, but no, caution flag is out, and I didn't even throw that caution, which is a little bit unnatural because the caution should not be able to throw itself on road courses. But you know what? I don't make the rules. If iRacing wants to do it for me, then more power to them. That said, let's take a look back, see if we can't get a look here at what just all happened to bring out this first caution flag on the speedway and potentially eliminate one of our Championship 4 drivers from contention here. They look down at the 777 of Sarah something. It looks like this is where the incident actually originated from. Valnar in the 776 just behind. Goes a little bit wide there, and oh, there's a tire barrier. Generally, it's advisable to not necessarily be following the leader all the way around the speedway like that. Let's ride on board with Chris Cox here, see what he saw going into this incident. Pushing just a little bit too hard down into turn 17, and surprise, there's a tire barrier. So just like that, the caution flag will fly for the first time here this evening. Sarah something, Chris Cox, and MF Beatus all involved in that incident. Chris Cox, Sarah something both have taken the tow down to pit lane. It looks like MF Beatus is... Nope, MF Beatus also taking the tow down to pit lane. So all three drivers potentially out of the race. I mean, that didn't seem like particularly bad damage for any of them, but you never know. It's entirely possible that that could be a race ender for those three drivers. That seems like everyone's in a bit of an awkward situation as we try to figure out where the pace car is. Or what the deal in general is right now. The caution flag is flying. The pace car is nowhere to be seen. Well, there's the pace car. And for some reason, Thirds is now down on pit lane. I'm going to be honest, I have no clue what is going on here with iRacing right now. But that seems to be the trend with Ottercar. Nothing can go right. That requires too much effort. But apparently Thirds has come down onto pit lane now, and that seems to be bumping her down to about the 16th position as it stands right now. So that would have Ash be our new race leader in the 030. Ash with an E starting to his outside. Dwayne Day and Madcap back for row number 2. Still not quite sure what all is going on. There's drivers getting sent down pit lane. Everyone else is still trying to catch up to the pace car right now. Some of them haven't even pulled that off. Take a look down at the track map though. Quite the large circuit that these drivers are making their way around, and apparently it looks like Ashley in the 88's kind of holding everyone up, trying to get back up to the pace car here. And they're all slowly but surely making their way up there, but it is currently taking them all quite a while to make it happen. Thirds is on pit lane right now. I don't know what the deal is. I don't know what the strategy was there. Unless she intended to go down pit lane and then someone just blocked her from going in, so she took the tow. I'm not quite sure what happened there. But that now means 2 of our Championship 4 contenders are sitting down on pit lane right now, right at the beginning of the race. Which means it comes down to Ash with an E and Madcap pretty much, unless Thirds or Chris Cox can manage to get their laps back somehow. What a bizarre event this has been. Let's see if we can go ahead and shorten this caution flag though, so we don't have to wait. Okay, we have not even completed a single lap of pacing yet, so we're gonna have to wait at least one more time around before we go green flag racing once again. which gives all the drivers stuck down on pit lane at least a little bit more time to try and get their cars working and back out on the circuit. It looks like there's actually a blocker car stuck down there as well. That blocker car has been on pit lane for nearly 4 minutes, so apparently the blockers had more drama than the Ottercar drivers did at the start of this race, because that's a lot of damage that it's trying to get fixed down there. I mean, it doesn't really look damaged as far as I can tell, so I don't know quite what the deal is. A couple of drivers electing to make the call to come down pit lane here. I don't know if I agree with that strategy, but I'm curious to see if it actually works out for any of them. Looks like, oh, you know, Ashley, Jeremy Albertson, Pav, Limited Time, Bluedy Wolf, and Kevin 11 have all come down to pit lane right now. And nothing particularly exciting in terms of the pit stop times, all about 8.3 to 8.6 seconds for all of them. So I would imagine they're all just taking a splash of fuel and hoping that that manages to get them to the end. I don't know if that's going to work or not, but it certainly is a strategy that they're attempting, I guess. That's the best I can really vouch for them there. I don't think that taking fuel right now is the right call, but that is just me. Regardless, we're going to shorten this caution so that we can go green next time around. We don't have all day. We've only completed 3 laps, and we're 9 minutes into this race, so we still got a long way left to go. And right now, it's going to be coming down to the 2 Championship 4 drivers in first and third right now, as Thirds and Chris Cox both down on pit lane. Chris Cox has been down there for nearly 7 minutes now. Thirds down there for 3.5. So it looks like that's both of their championship runs over, pretty much. As we make our way around this circuit, gonna be going green flag racing next time by, and now on warm tires. We'll have to see if drivers give each other any more room, be any more patient with each other going down into turn number 1, or if it's going to be absolute 3 and 4 wide chaos again, like we just saw it be earlier on in this race. Slowly but surely making our way around here. I believe the pace car speed's only, I think, 50 or 55 around this track, so faster than it is at some other circuits. There are some circuits where the pace car speed's only 30 miles an hour. But now on to the back straightaway, so we're just about there, getting ready to go green flag racing once again. Going to be Ash and Ash, your front row, then Madcap and Dwayne Day, row 2. Med and Ame Sakramori for row 3. Rally and Queen Amatrine for row number 4. Sarkin and August rounding out your top 10 as we get ready to take this green flag. 666 of Zoe coming back out onto the speedway from pit lane right now. Thirds, Sarah something, Chris Cox, all still down on pit lane. Regardless, the pace car is going to make its Tokyo drift down into the safety of pit lane once again. We're going to try this thing once again here at Sebring. Little bit of a checkup, but green flag up in the air here for the Grand Clam finale here at Ottercar AI Racing Series. And a little bit of confusion, looks like, as to where people are on the scoreboard, but we're making our way through down into turn number 1. Not much in the way of violence. Oh, limited time overdriving the corner and going off the speedway there a little bit, but otherwise things generally being okay. As once again, one of the blockers has gone around. Balnar off the speedway as well, and there comes Lake careening into him. Both drivers keeping their cars pointed in the right direction. It looks like, okay, well, that's just disrespectful at that point. That was entirely uncalled for, but apparently we're just bullying Valnar this evening for whatever reason. That's going to be bumping him all the way back to the 23rd position right now. Further up in the field, 2x2 as we head down into turn 10. That's Med and Ash with an E battling it out with Ame Sakaramori right now. Ash without an E, still your race leader. Dwayne Day hot on his heels. Madcap currently the highest running of the championship 4 contenders right now. There's potentially trouble for limited time. Limited time off the speedway and into the tire barrier. He gets it rolling once again back out on the track. I'll have to take a look back there in just a second to see what happened to the driver of that 44 machine. Side by side with the 818 of MF Beatus. Does he get any help, or is it just a bit of a skill issue? No, he gets some help. MF Beatus pushes him off the racetrack and just not able to get the car slowed down on that grass. But no harm, no foul. Making our way across the start-finish line for the first time under green flag conditions here as everyone sails the way back down into turn number 1. Contact there between Queen Amateur. There we go. Things should be working here again now. Don't know what the deal was with that, but nothing too dramatic happened during the downtime here. Ash, Madcap, Dwayne Day still duking it out for the podium of the race. Ash with an E has lost a couple of positions here in that number 11 machine. Now running back in the 6th position side by side with Med going down here into turn number 1. But managing to keep it pointed in the right direction. Things have gone a little bit spread out. Oh, trouble there. Deeg and Ashley in the 88 making contact. Jeremy Albertson up there in that battle as well, making contact with them. Big slide out of the 985. But still beating and banging off the doors of each other. Deeg and Jeremy Albertson duking it out. Kevin Eleven's in there too. He's not really helping in that number 7 machine, banging off those drivers as well. Now heading down into the hairpin. Seems like this is a lot of a part of the track where drivers really like to dive bomb it in there, but nothing too egregious that time around. Looks like the 3 machine of thirds is back out on the raceway, currently being scored 3 laps down. Chris Cox in the 69 being scored 4 laps down. So unfortunately, that is pretty much GG for both of those two championship contenders. It's all going to be coming down to Madcap and Ash with an E. And Madcap takes the lead from Ash in the 030. Dwayne Day gets around as well and spins him out. Ash with an E, or Ash without an E, gets spun around in the 030 machine. No damage to the car, it looks like, so he is able to get it rolling once again. But with this being such a high-speed section of the track, kind of trying to play it safe there and let the drivers by before causing any sort of issues, as we have more drivers off track. Kevin 11 goes around. Bloody Wolf off the track as well, so multiple incidents heading down through turns 13 to 15 there. No severe damage to any of the cars, so let's take a look through and try and figure out what all just went down there. We're going to start with Ash and go from there in the 030 machine. Did he get help from Madcap? Madcap goes around for the race lead. Then here comes Dwayne Day, and Dwayne Day just barrels into him. Then everything's looking a-okay up until just past him when there is trouble, I believe, for Jeremy Albertson. No, Jeremy Albertson made it through a-okay, but Deeg goes way off the track in the number 800 machine. That's not even a shortcut. That's just not being on the racetrack at this point. But, you know, fair enough. And we might potentially have a big one out on the racetrack. Let's see what the deal is here. Sure enough, Sarkin, I think, has taken the tow down to pit lane. So let's take a real quick look here, see what the deal is. Lots of slow drivers here. Not quite sure what the deal is with that. It's like everyone's trying to pit and just missing their pit stall. I'm not quite sure what the deal is there, but sure enough, most of the field has called the tow truck to come down to pit lane. And you can see another car stopped on the track there, so we're going to go ahead and throw the caution to figure out what the hell is going on here. Because it looks like basically the entire field just missed pit lane and called the tow truck. So right now, Pav is being scored as the race leader. Jeremy Albertson just behind, limited time. Kevin 11. Ash with an E still on the racetrack. But Madcap was one of the drivers that elected to take the tow along with Queen Amatrine, Dwayne Day, Lake, Zoe. Basically most of the field there. All just deciding that they were going to miss pit lane and call the tow truck. Not quite sure what the deal is there. But it wouldn't be an Ottercar event without the AI just being incredibly stupid. Now just a matter of getting things sorted out and figuring out who is supposed to be where in the starting lineup for this restart. Because quite honestly, I'm not keeping track of it. I have no idea. But we're within 10 to go now already, so unless there's like a wreck right on the restart, we're starting to get into the territory where we can't throw any more caution flags. While we're here, though, there was one incident that occurred that we missed. Let's see if we can't figure that out right quick. It was right around when Ash got spun. Bloody Wolf and Kevin 11 got together and had an incident, it looks like. So let's take a look back here. And they're already off the track, so that doesn't help. Let's go a little bit further back in time here. Looking down at Bloody Wolf, Kevin 11 And okay, that was entirely Kevin 11's fault. Kevin just completely blew the corner there, and actually, maybe not entirely Kevin's fault. Looks more like D got into the 7 machine, and then Bloody Wolf was pretty much just an unfortunate bystander there. Riding on board with the number 93 here. Now, you know, Bloody Wolf is not at fault for that, but he fully had the power to use the brakes there. That was avoidable entirely, 100%. He could have avoided that. He didn't, but he could have. So as it stands right now, Ash with an E is the only driver on the lead lap in the championship 4. Which is a little bit of a difficult situation. I mean, he could always get wrecked out too. That would be funny if our Ottercar champion gets determined by someone multiple laps down. Actually, no, that's not true. Madcap is also still on the lead lap, it looks like. Yes, Madcap is still on the lead lap. He is the last car on the lead lap, but he is still on the lead lap. We might have to go the full length yellow here just to let all of the cars actually catch up to where they're supposed to be on the racetrack. And we have more takers down pit lane, so disregard that. Pav, Jeremy Albertson, limited time, Kevin 11 all coming down pit lane, which would technically have Ash with an E end up being the race leader, but that's provided he doesn't pit as well, because sure enough, everyone is taking a ridiculous amount of time to get around the circuit and catch the pace car here. So you are basically going to have this full length caution just so everyone can catch the pace car and get in their proper starting order. Even worse, we might actually have to extend the caution with how long these drivers are taking to get things sorted out here. But we'll wait a minute. We'll see how things filter out. And it actually took so long for the rest of the field to catch the pace car that Pav, Jeremy Albertson, Limited Time, and Kevin 11 did not lose any positions for their pit stop, which is kind of messed up, all things considered. But we're going to go with it. Whatever happens, happens. And we will just figure things out from there. At this rate, I'm kind of just curious where the pace car actually is. I think Lake has got the pace car. No, Lake's just going slow too, as there is an incident under yellow. One of the blocker cars has self-spun under yellow. Take another look here, see what the deal is. You wouldn't think it would be that hard to do basic yellow procedure, but here we are. No one is capable of doing anything correctly. Pav's tire is sticking out of the left front of his car. It is not supposed to be doing that. But we are slowly but surely beginning to catch the pace car. I do think we are going to need another lap of yellow just to get everything sorted out, because most of the field is still on the other end of the racetrack. As Chris Cox and thirds have now wrecked each other under caution, I think there might be some tempers flaring that both of their championship runs have been ended here this evening. Let's take a look back at this. And yeah, okay. Mind you, we're under caution right now, and Chris Cox has wrecked one of his championship competitors here in that 69 machine. Let's get a top-down view of this. There was no attempt to make the corner there. We're not even racing. We're under caution. What? Wouldn't be Ottercar without a little bit of drama. So we are going to go another caution lap because, again, we're still waiting for most of the field to catch the pace car here. Things are just being silly, and I believe that the blocker car is the entire issue here. The blocker cars are not able to catch the face car very well. But we have stacked them up 2 by 2 here. It's not a very neat or clean 2 by 2, but they are sort of getting lined up correctly. I'll tell you what, these Ottercar drivers are trying their best. Their best is not very good, but they are trying their best. It looks like right now it's mostly a matter of... I mean, we're still waiting for these ones to actually catch the pace car here. But otherwise, it seems to be a matter of putting people in the correct position. The blocker cars are making things difficult. But if we're lucky, we should have things sorted out here in just a moment. A monumental if, but an if nonetheless. So I sort of got some things that look like sensible rows here. Ash and Madcap are actually only 3 positions apart from each other, so they might still be in a battle for the championship. Madcap did not go a lap down like I thought he was going to. And now more of the Ottercar field is fortunately starting to make their way up to the pace car. For the most part, anyways. There's still these blocker cars that are causing a bit of issues, but they're just about to catch up. And then, eventually, in theory, we might be able to get this race started again. Looking around the field, it looks like everyone has pitted, so there shouldn't be any needs to pit anymore here in this race. Everyone should be good to go on fuel. And we've had enough time under caution that I don't think tires are really a big deal. But we will be going green flag racing this time by pretty much no matter what. Some of these drivers still trying to figure out how to properly get lined up behind the pace car. There's still more drivers that have not caught the pace car yet, like none other than Chris Cox. But we're not extending the caution. This is good enough for me, and we will just be going with this when we come to the green. Whatever happens, happens. We will deal with the consequences of our actions. There's going to be Pav and Jeremy Alberts in your front row, then Kevin 11 and limited time for row number 2. Ash and Madcap, your only 2 championship contenders, still on the lead lap right now. So we'll see what happens. Regardless, the pace car is going to make the Tokyo Drift down to the safety of pit lane. We're trying this thing once again here at Sebring. And just like that, green flag up in the air once again. And immediately going 3 and 4 wide, trying to get around the blocker cars here on these restarts as everyone gets up to full speed. And a bit of contact between limited time and Jeremy Albertson as Pav goes way wide through the corner, and he's going to lose the race lead just like that. As Madcap and Ash duke it out here. Take a look down at that 11 machine of Ash with an E. You can see Madcap in the Pride car just up in front of him. Oh, Madcap's going to get pushed off the track. Madcap gets pushed off the track, and side by side for our two championship contenders, they make contact with each other going down into the hairpin. And now Ash with an E leads the way in this championship battle. Madcap just behind in the 38, but he needs to make some of that ground up pretty quickly here. About 0.2 of a second separating these two drivers, as side by side again going down into the tower corner, and Madcap's going to make the pass happen on Ash. Still a long way left to go. We can't really call it one way or another, as Chris Cox looks like he is run out of fuel potentially here. But he's far enough out of the way. We're going to keep this thing going green. Because we're basically within the threshold where we are going to keep the race green flag no matter what, so that it ends under green. Of course, no overtime on iRacing AI races yet. Nearly contact there between Med and Madcap, but everyone keeps it pointed in the right direction. Now Madcap pulling away from some of the other drivers. We have a couple of drivers coming down pit lane. Third's coming down, as well as Sarkin and Rally, and it looks like drop table rosters come down here. Limited time currently leading the race by about a 2-second lead over Queen Amatrine and Jeremy Albertson. Madcap up and fourth, our currently highest running Ottercar playoff contender. And Ash just 3 spots back, but it's about a 2-second deficit between the two of them. It is going to be difficult to make that up here. And of course, none of these other Ottercar drivers are going to make it any easy for them. Who cares that you're the championship contender? We have, you know, a 6th place finish to potentially get here. But we still got 6 to go. There's still opportunities for plenty of theatrics here in this race. Ash still being scored 2 spots back in this battle, but he's closing the gap up here a little bit. And Med and Kevin 11 nose to tail. It's entirely possible these two drivers could just take each other out and let Ash battle with that 38 of Madcap. But it's going to take a lot of work to get around those two cars if they're not going to play nice with them. And so far it's seeming like they're not very interested in that. Dig pulls out a line. He's going to see if he can go for the overtake on that 11 heading down into Sunset Bend. I don't think it's going to work though. Not quite close enough to make any sort of big lunges like that. And as we cross the line, big high five up in the air. 5 laps left to go. And Madcap's going to come down pit lane. So is Ash. Both of our championship contenders coming on down to pit lane here. Limited time, Kevin 11, Jeremy Albertson all elect to stay out here with 5 laps left to go. I mean, between these two, they really don't care about a potential race win. They're just trying to make it to the end. Pav electing to stay out as well in that 12 machine. That's going to move him up to the 4th position right now. The limited time, Kevin 11, Jeremy Albertson, and Pav, the 4 that elect to stay out. But let's look down at pit lane. Who is going to win the battle off of pit lane between our two drivers? It's going to be Madcap. Madcap wins the battle off of pit lane, but Ash follows just behind. So now Madcap and Ash can duke it out without any other drivers getting in the way of the two of them. But he's fallen down to a 4-second deficit he's going to have to make up. It's pretty much going to be a question of which of these two drivers can get their tires up to temp here. They look down here at... Apparently there's a blocker car somewhere in between these two drivers. There we go. Looking at the sector times between these two drivers, Madcap pretty much having the advantage all the way around the track for the time being. We'll see how things shake up as we head into the top part of the raceway. Madcap's still faster than Ash by about 0.2 of a second. He's starting to close the gap, but it's just not fast enough. And Madcap makes the move on Jeremy Albertson. As there's a slow car, that was Jeremy Albertson way off the pace there. And that time around, Ash actually has the better time than Madcap through that sector of the track. And nope, we're right back to Madcap being the faster car here. It's going to be very difficult for Ash to make this ground up here. He really needs just some sort of huge blunder out of that 38 machine. Because right now we're looking at about a 4-second deficit between the two cars. And unless lap traffic or anything like that gets involved, it's going to be very hard to make that up. A little bit of a bobble through Sunset Bend as well. That's going to cost him even more ground on Madcap here. But 4 laps left to go here at Sebring to settle the score once and for all. And Madcap a little bit off the pace down through turn number 1. There might be trouble on the racetrack though. Sarah something was reporting is having an incident, but it looks like she's doing a-okay. Currently running back in the 24th position though, so the level of a-okay is questionable, but she's still on the racetrack, still turning laps, so that's half the battle right there. Zoe as well, potentially having an incident on the racetrack, and it looks like she just spun out one of the blocker cars, potentially. Jeremy Albertson making the call down to pit lane, but all of the drama right now is the battle between Madcap and Ash. And that battle has now grown to more of a 6-second deficit, so Ash is losing a lot of ground here on that 38. I don't know if he's going to be able to make that up, quite honestly. Third's currently running back in the 19th position as the third of the championship 4, if nothing else. She is ahead of Chris Cox, who is an additional lap down from her. But I don't think it's not possible at this rate for thirds or Chris Cox to take home the Ottercar championship. Our race leader, Kevin 11, making the call to come down pit lane. Path coming down as well, and oh you know, just had an incident there, spinning out, trying to come down into pit lane. I think he just hit the pit lane attenuator there. Again, we're not going to be throwing the caution here at this rate, keeping it green until the end. Take a look here at what happened to right quick. It looks like he might have just overdrove the corner and missed pit entry. Sure enough, he tried to make it into the pit lane and could not turn the car sharp enough. So is going to have to take the tow down to pit lane. Ash and Madcap up to a 7-8 second gap now. So Ash is really falling back with 3 laps to go. It's looking like it might just go to Madcap. But ignoring our championship contenders real quick, there's also a battle for the race lead going on right now between Queen Amatrine, sponsored by Riot Games, and that one machine of Med. About 0.3 of a second between the two of them. Neither of these drivers have taken home a race win here in Ottercar season number 2. And I actually don't believe either of these drivers have taken home a race win in Ottercar, period. So these two, something to definitely keep an eye on, even if it's not for the championship, of course. But it is still for bragging rights, and a race win is a race win. But 3 to go here in Ottercar, going to be 2 to go in just a couple of moments. Sarkin looks a little bit off the pace down there in that 901 machine. Sark running back in 12th position right now. Both these drivers trying to work their way around this lap car. That is the 93 of Bloody Wolf, and heading into Sunset Bend, that's a little bit of a scary place to try and overtake lap traffic, but sure enough, they are going to go for it. Blue keeps the car just pinned up to the high side of the racetrack, and looks like he will not be too much of an issue going down here. Across the line, 2 to go from the flagman. 2 more laps around this historic circuit to declare a champion of the Ottercar AI Racing Series season number 2. As Med and Queen Amatrine, sponsored by Riot Games, continue to duke it out. You can see at the top of the screen way back there, Madcap running back in 3rd. Kevin 11 hot on his heels, but Ash still falling back. Speaking of falling back though, Med now back to about a second as that lap car of Bloody Wolf gets around him here. And sure enough, the lead now up to nearly 2 seconds between Queen Amatrine and Med, just through the courtesy of that lap car right in the middle of them. Running just behind, Madcap running up in 3rd, Kevin 11 just behind. And Ash, you can't even see on the racetrack behind him now that it's up to a 7-second deficit. As long as Madcap can get around the course without any sort of classic Ottercar blunders here in this next lap and a half, Madcap will be walking away with the championship of Ottercar season number 2. Gap still climbing at about 7.5 seconds now. Wait a minute here and take a look back at Ash, who does have a lap car in the way as well. That's the 800 of Deeg and a blocker car in front of him to make things extra complicated. And watch out, nearly contact with 2 blocker cars that have spun out there. But no contact, he's keeping it pointed in the right direction. He's still going. But as we head through Sunset Bend, the white flag will fly one more time around Sebring International Raceway, and we will be declaring an Ottercar season number 2 champion. Heading down into turn 1 for the final time, Madcap having the advantage over Kevin 11. And Ash with an E heading down into there as well, but it's still a 7-second gap, so I don't think he's going to quite be able to close that up. Still leading the race is Queen Amatrine, sponsored by Riot Games, with a 1.1 second lead over Med. Med managed to clear the lap car of Bloody Wolf, but now it's a matter of actually closing up that gap. And while I say that, Med's going to do it just like that. Down to 0.3 of a second. The battle for the race lead might end up being more clear-cut than the battle for the championship, but Bloody Wolf is really being a pain in the butt here. Again, he is not on the lead lap right now. In fact, Blue is about 7 laps down and getting himself involved in this battle for the lead of the race. Med clears the 93 again, but now down to a 1-second gap. Then again, heading down these long straightaways, Med might be able to pick up the draft here and close up that gap just a little bit. It's all going to come down to if Med can close that gap up heading down the back straightaway and potentially get a run going into Sunset Bend. I don't know if Med is close enough to make it happen, though. I don't think that they are. Unless Queen Amatrine overdrives Sunset Bend, I think she is going to be taking home the win of this race. And sure enough, heading down through Sunset Bend for the final time, Queen Amatrine takes home the race win here at Sebring. And just behind in the number 38, Madcap is your Ottercar Season 2 champion. Came in here tonight. Not even sure if he had a race win to his name. But throughout it all, managed to actually make it happen here this evening. Let's take a look here. Did Madcap actually take home a race win? Okay, Madcap did win back at New Hampshire. So Madcap did take home a win. And now he is a champion here in Ottercar Season number 2. What a crazy season it has been in a very crazy car. Next season, though, Lord willing, we will be using actual road racing cars that don't have all of the tons of issues that we have had with the super late model, with the random pipe bombs and all sorts of drama, cars missing pit lane. But for now, that is what it is here. Queen Amatrine, sponsored by Riot Games, a race winner. And Madcap, her teammate at that, going to be a champion of Ottercar. Ash had a lot of good fight in him. He did lead a couple of laps in the battle, but just not able to get that car back up to speed after the pit stop. But that said, how about we apparently wait a minute for the race to officially be declared as over. We're still waiting on a couple of lot cars across the line, and then we'll take a look down at our race results as they stand here for the final event in Ottercar Season number 2. As most of the field now makes their way on down to pit lane. And potentially gets out of these super late model cars for the final time before stepping into something brand new here in a couple of months for Ottercar Season number 3. Still waiting for a couple of these lap cars, it looks like, to actually cross the line to be scored as finished the race. But as it looks like right now, of course, Queen Amatrine, sponsored by Riot Games, is your race winner. Med going to be finishing back in second here, with Madcap rounding out the podium as he takes home the championship title here for Ottercar Season number 2. Kevin 11 back in fourth, with Ash with an E, your runner-up in the championship, finishing back in fifth. Otherwise, things are kind of all over the place with the race results, and of course we will get them posted up on the website here in a minute so that we can see how all of our non-playoff drivers finished up in the regular season points championship. And there we go. It looks like the race results are now being declared official. So Queen Amatrine, our race leader and race winner, Med back in second. Madcap taking home the championship, finishing the race back in third. Kevin 11 going to be bringing it home back and forth, with Ashton with an E rounding out your top 5 in the 11 machine. Back in 6 going to be Pav in the 12, followed by Rally in the 26, back in 7th. MF Beatus in 8th, as No, Rally's the last driver actually on the lead lap. Then in ninth, going to be Dwayne Day, followed by Deeg in 10th in the 800. 11th to limited time in the 44, followed by Jeremy Albertson in 12th. Valnar in 13th. Zoe in 14th in the 666, with Sarkin rounding out the top 15. Then back in 16th will be third, followed by 17th to the 777 of Sarah Something. 18th to Drop Table Roster in the 369, with 19th going to Ashley in the 88. 20th going to be Lake in the 330, followed by Oh You Know, Chris Cox, Bloody Wolf, and Ash with an E. Rounding things out at the tail end of the field. And then back in 25th, Ame Sakaramori with August in the 21, rounding out the final position of the race. That said, that's just about all we've got here from Sebring International Raceway. That's just about all we've got here for Ottercar Season number 2. As Queen Amatrine takes home the race win for the Blazed and Drunk drivers, and Madcap secures the championship for the Blazed and Drunk drivers racing team. That said, thank you all for tuning in. I look forward to seeing you all during the off season for the ICAI runoffs as we figure out exactly which car to use for Ottercar Season number 3. Of course, now that the stream has ended, that poll will be closing, and right now it is an even tie between sports cars and formula cars, so we will be testing both disciplines of racing out during the ICAI runoffs. But production cars, stock cars, prototypes, all being thrown out the window. Whatever Ottercar Season 3 ends up being, it's either going to be sports cars or formula cars. But for now, thank you all for tuning in, and I will see you all next time. Have a good evening.